All right.
Everything sounds okay for you guys? Like, you guys sound like super like jumpy to me, but if it sounds okay on your end, then
It sounds okay here.
You sound good to me, and I'm the one recording, so.
All right, sweet.
All right, let's do it. All right, welcome to Hammer Factor number 6. Let's get right into it. I want to introduce myself, John Grace. I am the show producer. And in studio, we have pro poker player, North Fork champion, and policy counsel for Outdoor Alliance, Lewis Geltman. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you, John?
Good. Lewis is coming to us from what airport?
National
in Washington, D.C. There we go. And then also our co-host, Mr. Kara Weld, husband of legend Kara Weld, who was a 9-time national team member, 3-time national champion, World Cup medalist, and the first woman to run Great Falls.
Correct. I think.
Welcome to the show, John. That's pretty exciting. If anybody knows of a woman who has ran Great Falls before Kara Weld, let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I would say it's probably mid-'80s, somewhere in there. Late 80s?
All right. Well, first, before we get into it, we have some quality lettuce coming from Lewis. But I want to go over a couple little things here. I'm going to jump right into a little viewer mail, which is not quite exactly viewer mail. I want to apologize. We're going to keep it a little short today. We got a lot going on with Green Race coming up, but we will make up for it next week.
We being you, just to be clear on that.
Yes, we being me. There's a lot going on with the Green River Narrows race. But right. I want to open up with, we put out on Facebook asking some people whether they wanted to keep the video part of the podcast, just the audio. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep the video on YouTube and Facebook. But if you subscribe through iTunes, Stitcher, or any of our other RSS feeds, you will just receive the audio podcast. So best of both worlds there. Be sure to subscribe any way you want to listen. You can subscribe on YouTube or you can subscribe on iTunes or any ways, but any way you want. But we reached a milestone of 500 subscribers. So who'd have thunk, boys?
I think we've got every single whitewater kayaker in the country now. I think someone called me out for busting on how small the industry is, and I should cool it on that. It's a great industry.
It's a part of John. You got to keep it going. This is a part of your mantra.
Okay, all right. That's what I bring to the table. Bitterness.
Oh, but we love it.
Just a little taste of bitter.
All right, so Lewis, what do you got? Oh, and before we get into Lewis, John, every time I talk about the Green Race, and it's just never fails. You're like, I'm looking over the show notes, and you're like, I don't know what to talk about this. Blah blah blah. It seems boring. And every year it's the same. I'm so excited, and you're crushing my dreams. So now this show, every time someone answers something about the Green Race, you got to say, "Oh yes, Green Race, I love you." No,
I have an idea. This year, get a couple kegs, get some people together, give the trophy to Dane, and have a good time.
Dane's not coming.
Just move forward. Dane's not coming.
Yeah, he's not coming.
Oh, that changes everything. Now it's a lot more interesting.
But DeGill, who tied him last year, is here, and he's already broken a kayak, so I've heard.
All right,
all right, let's move on. Lewis, what were we going to say to Lewis?
Oh, I have a question for Lewis. I got a question for you.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so you're in D.C., right? And I know. I mean, I did this I did this once years ago, so I have some inkling of what's going on. But you go to DC to meet with who? Like, who are you talking with?
So last we were talking about this widened recreation, not red tape bill that I'm all fired up about. That would kind of queue up the Forest Service and BLM to help basically start looking for potential new national recreation areas. So it's been in DC the last 5 days. Did kind of the rounds on the Hill, so it's like meeting with staffers for.
Okay, wait. So let's do a civics lesson here. You say rounds on the Hill. What is that? What's Capitol Hill? But who's there?
So Capitol Hill, Senate, Congress. To become a law, a bill has to be passed in the same form by the Senate and the House, signed by the president. We can add in the Schoolhouse Rock music here whenever.
You laugh as if everyone knows this, but I assure you, not everybody knows this.
So this bill has been introduced in the Senate by Ron Wyden, who worked really hard or his staff worked really hard to put this thing together. It's been introduced in the House by Blumenauer.
And Ryan Wyden's from where?
Oregon.
And what incentive does he have to craft this bill? I mean, he's taking time out of his schedule and his staffers who are obviously busy people to do this. Why is he, what's his motivation?
So maybe like a year ago, Wyden did this thing with this kind of like event with Travel Oregon, what they were calling the Seven Wonders of Oregon, listening tour, kind of like Travel Oregon as part of this big tourism campaign designated Seven Wonders of Oregon. So it's like Columbia River Gorge, Crater Lake, maybe Smith Rock down by Bend, Oregon coast, just a bunch of kind of outdoor high points, basically. And so if he went around to all these places and had these little events and people would come up and tell him what's up, what he could do to help with outdoor recreation. And so
he's the guy who thinks this is important, not only for altruistic reasons, but economically it's going to be good for his state as well.
Right.
And then he gets your foot in the door in these with the senators and Congress people. Is he the one that makes these meetings possible?
I think that we make these meetings possible because we're an organization that, collectively are, between AW, IMBA, Access Fund, American Alpine Club, American Canoe Association, all our member organizations. We have something like 150,000 members all over the country. We have 1,500 local affiliate clubs. So we represent their constituents. And so we go in there and we're like, this is something that your constituents care about. This is something that people in your state care about. You need to, help out this big group of people who's fired up about these issues.
But you're targeting particular representatives. You've found specific people who are going to be able to advance this thing. Are you going to people who you need to convince that this needs to happen, or how do you can't meet with everybody? How do you pick the people to meet with?
So to go back to the civics stuff, a bill gets introduced and then it gets referred to a committee, and a committee is maybe 20 senators on energy and natural resources is the name of the committee that would have jurisdiction over a bill like this. Mm-hmm. So before anything else happens, it gets a hearing in that committee, and then it would have to get voted out of that committee to actually have a chance of having a vote on the floor.
And this is a bipartisan committee, right? This is not...
Right.
Would the chairperson be obviously a member of one part or the other? Would he have an influence over what's going to happen here?
Yes. So because the Republicans control the Senate, they get to select the chair of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. So the chair of that committee is Lisa Murkowski from Alaska.
Yeah.
But when we're going around making the rounds on this, we're looking for senators who have shown some interest in our issues in the past, who've voted well on public lands bills. We really would like to find a Republican to be Wyden's co-sponsor for this, because having it be bipartisan would really help it make headway. And so we're not really looking for a bunch of Democrats to sign on to this right now, because then it starts to look like a really hyper-partisan issue when we don't really see it that way, and we don't want it to be perceived that way to, enable it to go forward. So this last week, I'm visiting with a bunch of pretty moderate Republicans who are relatively good on public lands issues to kind of explain why this is a good idea.
So when do you meet with the representatives or senators themselves, or do you meet with their staff?
Almost always staff.
Always staff, just because the representative or senator is too busy to deal with this particular issue.
They're busy, and frankly, they don't really know as much about these kind of public lands issues typically as their staff would.
Right. So the staff takes what you say and they condense it into some packet of information to give to their boss.
Right. And so it's about kind of helping their boss see that this is a good idea. This is something their constituents care about. Later down the road, it's maybe a matter of kind of coordinating some grassroots outreach. So maybe you'll get an email from AW somewhere down the line that says, hey, your senator's really important on this issue. please write today and share with him that passing R&R would be really good for whitewater kayakers in your state.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, then that kind of helps raise the profile of the issue with these guys and help them think, oh, I'm going to get some political credit for doing this. This is something that's going to make people happy or whatever.
When you meet with these staffers, I mean, how easy are they to read? I mean, can you go there and sort of realize you're getting absolutely nowhere with this, or they just have a good poker face and you have no idea what's happening?
It's pretty good for the most part. I mean, I think that they're pretty, occasionally you'll have a meeting where the staffer is just sort of like, doesn't really ask any questions. You can tell they're not really interested. And
is that because they're a bad staffer, or because they know that their boss is going to have zero interest in this?
I would say most likely it's because you're meeting with somebody who's really junior and who doesn't really understand the issue very well. If you're talking to somebody who's pretty up on it, even if they're not really on your page, they'll usually explain why not, or tell you what they think would need to change for this to go forward, or explain why they think, like they might say, oh yeah, like we support you guys, but like, these 5 other senators are going to be, are not going to support it. So we're not going to go out on a limb for this, or like, you really need to go talk to these other guys because, we all like, I don't think they really like snow you very often. Like, I think that, they might be more or less helpful, but I don't feel like it's a situation where they're just like telling you what you want to hear. Like, it doesn't really, happen like that.
I guess if they're meeting people every day like this, they'd lose energy for BSing. What would be the typical opposition to what you're proposing? Like, what would be a classic reason why someone may not be interested in doing this at all?
I would say the biggest reason would be if there were some really important stakeholder group who they thought they were going to piss off by doing it. So, like, if the hunters and anglers in Montana are super opposed to what it is we want to do, then Stu Daines isn't going to jump on board. And so that's like what we're getting most right now with this as well. It's like a really long bill. We need to like check in with all these other stakeholder groups before we're ready to say anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So just as a final thing, what's the timeline on something like this? Like, when you start working on this project, how long will it take to come to fruition? Best case and worst case scenario.
I would say best case, maybe we could get something done next year. Worst case, never. Likely, it could easily take a couple of years, I'd say.
So, Lewis,
will the outcome of the election have a huge impact in the direction this takes, or not really?
I'm not sure it would. I mean, I think that it would be nice if the Senate flipped and it was in Democratic control, but I'm not sure it would make a huge difference for this. And the House is going to stay Republican almost for sure. Right. So it seems like the dynamic's probably not going to change too much, assuming Clinton wins.
So this seems like a pretty targeted, coordinated effort, like a plan of attack on this. Who comes up with this plan? Like, who you're going to meet with and all that kind of stuff, Lewis? Is that you, or is that people at the Outdoor Alliance? Or
that's mainly me. We did a bunch of visits this week with the Outdoor Industry Association, which is kind of like the trade group for outdoor industry. They put on the Outdoor Retailer Trade Show. And they're super good partners of ours on public lands issues. They kind of work in D.C. on public land stuff, but then also trade, which we don't really have anything to do with. But their lobbyist is super cool, super savvy. So do a bunch of good work with her.
Wow, that's rad. That is a big undertaking.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a project.
You have to wear a suit and a tie. Is that what you have to wear?
That's right. My suit lives at my mom's house here in Bethesda. Just fly back and put it on in DC.
Do you own a suit, Grace?
I do. I own 2 suits. I try not to.
Do you own a suit, Walt?
I think I have one for like funerals.
Let's move on to our green race segment of the show today. We're going to bring in a bunch of champions, and our main goal is to give our first-time racers and aspiring racers some tips and see what everybody's got to say. This is gonna take just a second, but we're gonna try and get Andrew Holcombe, Adriene Levcknecht, Isaac Levinson, and Pat Keller on the.
This is like the Hollywood Squares of kayaking here.
Yeah, these heavy hitters. Watch out. So. All right, guys, bear with me on this. Let's see what I can do.
Well, who do you think is going to win the green race this year while we're waiting?
Who
you got?
All right, hold on.
Or are we saving that for the end?
Does anybody have another rave? Because I want to rant about people mountain biking with their dogs.
What's happening?
Rush.
Hey.
Rush.
Rush, you there?
No rush. It's the Jew.
Isaac. All right, sick. That's who we wanted anyway.
Right now.
Rush is right here, and so is Billy Jones and his 2 kids.
Sweet.
Nice.
Tom and Sam are also on Hammer Factor. Can you guys hear me? It's all good?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
You're good. Yeah.
Well, you guys were going in and out a bit, but getting most of it.
We have our super high-tech setup this week between me sitting in the airport, Weldon, West Virginia, and you in the godforsaken hills of North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm in like the Green River Cove and staying in a trailer, and
he's like in the Andean gorilla.
It's like the movie Ravenfork.
It's hilarious. It's awesome. Our neighbors are definitely voting for Trump. And, we're putting a Bernie Sanders sign in our front yard just to have a little entertainment this week.
Okay, I've looked through the list here. I know who's going to win.
Oh, yeah? Who's going to win, Weld?
I can't say that. I don't want to blow my wad right now. I want to hold on to this for just a little bit.
I think it's going to be a white salmon sweet.
It's probably the first time you've never blown your wad early, huh?
Look at you.
That's definitely going to make it in the show right there.
Well, you're certainly not my pick. I would say that.
Hey, we can take this time to maybe renegotiate Rush's
let's talk about that.
little wager we have going here. So it seems like when he made the bet, he got a little bit stage fright in the moment, and he got talked into 20 seconds.
There's 10 million people listening on Hammer Factor. I had a lot of pressure.
What up?
Adrienne, you there?
I feel like
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we got Adrienne.
Continue with your case here, Rush.
Well, I'm just saying, there was a lot of pressure on a lot of people listening, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was thinking little white race times, because little white, there's oftentimes 20 to 30 seconds of separation between fast racers. And then, you also told me that you were fat, out of shape. And, I went to meet you at the river yesterday, and you ran an hour and a half to the put-in. So I feel like I've just been getting sandbagged a little bit, to be honest.
In all seriousness, John, all right, green race, it's 4 minutes and 30 seconds for a respectable time. You're usually right around 4:30s, mid 4:30s. I've been doing some practice.
He was at 4:50.
Yes,
well, that was
exactly.
4:51.
Exactly. See, thank you for coming to my defense there, Will.
But Chelsea had twins a day before the race, and John was literally came from the delivery room to the starting line.
It didn't get any easier. Trust me. Between then and now, he's been no better.
So I think that we should just renegotiate, or Rush should just dye his hair the week before the race, because it's not gonna. Maybe we should just get some bleach. I don't know, but I think it'd be more interesting 10 seconds. Give him.
Give me a chance, dude.
How old are you, John?
I'm 50. I'm 52. If you can't beat someone who's 52 years old by 20 seconds,
aren't
Rush.
you 39 or 40, and Rush is 31? So how about you do a second? You get a second for every year older that you are.
So I'm talking about, John.
That seems like a very. I want it to be a race, dude. I don't want just Rush. I do want to see Rush get his hair done.
There has been let's face the facts. There's been a big public outcry from the Asheville community that this was an unfair bet. I made a mistake. I admit it, but I'm trying to just trying to negotiate here.
Is Holcombe there?
Yeah, what are you trying to negotiate?
Yes!
Thank you.
It's not a problem. You're just scared now and trying to back out.
That's exactly what's happening. Thank you for putting what's really happening on the table at this point, Andrew Holcombe.
I'm trying to get down the course, number one. I'm trying to also not get beat by Adrienne, which is a high probability of that happening.
Yeah, but none of that has anything to do with dyeing your hair.
Well, I know, but
either
it's like,
diet or you don't.
I got all those other problems and then this one on top of it, you know. So
Short-sighted, Rush. Short-sighted.
Anyway, thanks for coming on the show, everybody. And Rush, we'll have the other bets in the future, buddy.
Yeah, whatever.
It's all gonna get. We'll talk about tomorrow. We can paddle all day tomorrow. Okay. Where's my list of questions? Okay. Past champions. First, we're going to talk about if you're a first-time racer. Any advice? Let's start with you, Andrew. Any advice for a first-time racer who wants to come out and post a good time?
First-time racer or just wants to post a good time? Those are two different things.
Any advice for our first-time racers out there? I mean, thinking back to your first race or people you've known or coached through their first race?
Yeah, I think you just want to be really clear of why you're out there. You can race the green for a lot of different reasons, and you just want to know those before you take your first stroke. You know, whether your goal is to post a good time for you or go below 5 minutes or place in the top 10, whatever it is, and just check yourself and make sure that that's actually in line with how you've been training or paddling, you know, and kind of how you've been approaching it. So in other words, recognize what you've been doing leading up to the race and make sure you actually like have a goal that's in line with that.
What if your motivation is maintaining your hair color?
If your motivation is maintaining your hair color, then you probably should have gotten here before this week.
So basically, Andrew, you're saying race the way you practiced. Don't come out.
Yeah, you need to race the way you practice. Don't come out and do something different all of a sudden just because it's race day. And there's always next year, and if you want to race differently next year, do that. But don't make a sudden change on, now I'm going to try for under 5 minutes when you had just been happy to be in the green race or made a side bet with your friend or whatever it is. Like have that, you know, that original reason of why you clicked, yes, I want to enter, you know, make that work for you on race day.
Right. Good advice. This goes out to Adriene and Isaac. So you guys have both been racing a lot, traveled, you know, around the world competing in races. Just got back from Europe. How is the green race different? What keeps you coming back? You know, if you're one of the people who hikes in every year to this race or one of the racers who's been here a few times or it's your first race, give me just put it in perspective. How are the races? Just describe how this race is different than others.
Yeah, I mean, all the races to me have a pretty different vibe, and the green race is unique because it's just a really like friendly atmosphere. You know, everybody is going in there for, you know, entertainment, but also like there's an amazing camaraderie, and the week leading up to the race is just like amazing time on the river. You know, you're going down the river, and there's, you know, 20, 30 the best boaters in the Southeast getting in their training laps, and I don't know, just the vibe is so different here. It's what I really notice about it. And for me, I grew up in Atlanta, so I've always Is there an airplane taking off in your house?
Don't worry about that. That's Lewis. He's rubbing elbows with senators as we speak. So.
Okay. Sorry, boys.
Yeah. So I was just saying like the vibe, and growing up here, is the green race was something that I always heard about in the paddling community, and I would say it's one of the most like historic and prestigious extreme whitewater kayak races. So I mean, to me, it's something that's really special.
What do you got, Adriene?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would definitely agree with Isaac there. It's a really special race, and it's interesting coming from Europe, where you're racing against a lot of slalom racers who, you know, really just go kayak and do their thing and go back home. There's not really much of a community surrounded by the race. And to me, like, I race because I love the community. And so, like, the week coming up to the green race, or even the 2 weeks coming up to the green race, like, being able to feel the energy of all the other racers and being able to hear about good lines, bad lines, mediocre lines, and who's walking gorilla and who's running gorilla right now is pretty awesome. Like, you don't really find this race community anywhere else in the world. There is a Facebook page specialized for green race lines. If you go to the Little White, it's a bros game. It's who you know. It's who's going to tell you which lines. It's not, you can't get online and go sit there and watch every single line over and over and over again, like the Facebook page for the green race.
One thing that I've always noticed about the green race, and that gets me fired up, is, it's amazing to paddle through a crowd like that. I mean, to hear that kind of energy as you're paddling down through the race. Is that going on over at Sickline?
I mean, in the super final there, I have to say that the energy is very intense and amazing. Yet it's a completely different vibe and energy at the green race, and it's unique for sure. And I just think every race is different. Every race has something special and something amazing to offer. And that's why Whitewater is what it is. It's like we get to go to these, like, you got to go to Europe, you got to go to the Northwest or Mexico or New Zealand, and like everything has something a little bit different to offer. But with the green, and Holcombe and I can contest to this, like, if you go first in the green race, when you're coming down when you're coming into gorilla, you can feel like the crowd like come alive and the energy roar, and that's something that I've never experienced in any other kayaking race ever. Like, every single competitor gets a rise out of the crowd, and that's just like, that's what's so unique about it, and it's wild. I can't wait. I just get chills thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm getting chills you talking about it. Adriene, here's another one for you. What about the girls' class? Why don't we have more ladies out there racing?
Yeah, this has always been a question that everybody has every year. We had 25 women, 26 women actually race at the Sickline.
All right, hang on
which
just
was
a second.
Huge.
Hey, Lewis, I'm going to have to ask you to unplug your microphone, my man.
You're banished.
All right.
Okay.
You're fired.
Okay.
Fired.
So you're fired?
All I can hear is Delta 489er. Come on back.
Yeah, this is always something that comes up. This is my 11th year racing, and we've had, I think, as much as 7 women and as little as 3. And you go to Europe, like, just came back from Sickline, we had 26 women race. And they were all stoked.
Do you think
they were
that's
all super
because
excited.
of the difficulty of the course, or why do you think that is? Is it just more ladies out there getting after it?
So, I mean, Europe's bigger. You have a lot more of a slalom outreach. You have women who are actually are really, really good at kayaking, and that's what they do. They're slalom racers. They're really good at putting their boat where it needs to go, and they can race the Willowbrook course, right? But the majority of the women that I talked to were like, "Oh, you're the green race winner," and most of them said, "I would not come race the green."
Interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, it could be. But on the other hand, the women's Green River Takeover, we had over 40 women on the Narrows. So it doesn't have to do with the inability to kayak. It also, there's probably something else that's going in there that has to do with a woman's want or need to compete. So, like, for me, I grew up swimming. I grew up competing. This is what I did. And so this was my ability to keep competing, was to start kayaking. And so that's what I do. But, there's some women that just don't want to compete. They just want to float in, and they want to hang out with the crowd and be in the gorge and feel the energy, like what we were just talking about. So,
yeah, which is cool.
It's kind
totally
of a
cool
choice. Too. Right. Yeah, for sure. It's a choice. So when you're the smaller, when you're the minority, everybody is watching you. You are put under a microscope. So even though, you have a field of 130 men, if 3 or 4 of those guys crash, nobody really cares about that. It's the 2 women that crash out of the 5.
Oh.
And it becomes this like big, huge whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
So that's probably another thing, another reason.
Well, what about should we be in that? Is Rush still in the room?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yep.
Should we get a bet between Rush and Adriene?
No, I'm over the bets, man. I've already learned my.
Okay. Real quick.
I did actually kind of want to quickly just respond to one thing Adriene mentioned. I think that this is like an important topic and interesting because it's like there is this constant comparison of the Little White race and the Green race and both rivers in general, and Adrienne's right. Like I have been blown away with the community here and just the actual, the amount of emphasis is put on the section and the moves and that all that information is available online. Like that's amazing actually. And I didn't really quite realize it, but it's a totally different world out West too. Like there's just way less paddlers, and way less people doing that event than here, So I think that's like the main reason. And I don't think of it as much of a bros, section as much as it is just a lot less people, and a lot more also unpredictability in terms of which line is actually the fastest. Like here, there's definitely a few areas where you can maybe do things somewhat differently, but it's like a really technical course with a very sort of precise line that you need to hit. And it's like really hard to link that together. But I think that's the biggest difference is that it's also a race that's a third, less than a third the length, So that's they're pretty different. It's hard to even compare the two, I think, really, in all honesty.
Yeah, they're great in their own ways. I don't think anybody can argue with that.
But I gotta say, man, like doing that move from go left down through the slides below Gorilla to the end. I mean, that linking those moves up, in my opinion, I haven't raced it yet, but that is the sickest link of moves I've ever seen in any race course ever. That's like, it's amazing,
Yeah, the Green race. The Green race is like single track downhill mountain biking. It's actually super flowy prior to what people think about it being pretty like rocky and bony. I mean, like when you link everything up on the green, there's like not a better feeling in a race course that I have found yet. I mean, like the Little White has so many amazing moves and Sickline doesn't feel even nearly like the Green, but I mean, that's why the Green is unique. I mean, it's just so technical and like putting it all together in a 4.5 minute run or 4 minute, 15-second run, whatever you're doing. It's like that's what's so unique about it. It's just different. And like, I mean, I have the same amount of fun on the Little White as I do on the Green as far as race training goes.
Okay, real quick before we lose focus here, racers, give me your top three.
So you're asking the potentially top three to pick the top three. That's kind of messed up.
Yep, exactly. On the spot, hot seat, buddy.
Well, I mean, it's hard. It's so hard to call it, but I mean, there's always like about 10 people here that I think have the potential to get in the top three. And from what I've seen so far, and let's remember that Dane, the current champion or current co-champion, is he's been in the top spot the last 2 years. He tied with me in 2014, and I edged him out with nothing of a hand timing watch. And he's not here, so let's take that into account. But Eric DeGill was tied Dane last year, so I'll put him in the top three. And then it gets interesting because, Jeff Calhoun was second and I was, third because they tied for first. So I was really fourth. I was the fourth fastest paddler down the course.
Isaac, top three.
So then Holcombe. What's that?
3 names,
I'm
man.
Okay, sorry. I'll just go.
Here, ready? This is how it works. Pat,
all right, I'm gonna go.
there.
I'm gonna go myself, Pat, and DeGill.
There you go. Nice work.
Isaac, Pat, DeGill. Okay,
Sorry.
What do you got,
I was
Holcombe?
breaking it down. I was trying to break it down. Who do you think, Holcombe? What's your call, dude?
I go Pat, you, DeGill. Not
that's the order. That's the order. Okay.
No, that's not the order. Those are just the top 3.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
You believe
not in any order, but I think those are the top 3.
Adriene? Who you? I haven't seen you out there, so you haven't seen me out there.
Yeah, I've been walking Grill with Pride. It's been great.
What? Give us a call in the boys' class here, Adrian.
Oh man, I don't know. DeGill's been working pretty hard lately. I might have to throw this one out to DeGill and have him take it. And then I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Jeff Calhoun.
Well, Jeff's been on fire this year.
Maybe he won't crash. That'd be good. So first Eric, second Jeff, third Isaac.
And what do you think about Will Lyons?
What do I think about Will Lyons?
77.
I have no one talking about Will Lyons here.
Are you asking me this question?
Oh, yeah. Well, we got to all cheer for Will out there. He's going back to C1ing. He's looking to make a statement. So
my kids are going to cheer for Will. You know that story.
You should tell that story. That's so funny. From all the things that ever happened in LVM, your kids loved Will Lyons. Is that right?
Yeah, my kids watched all the episodes of LVM, which is fantastic. And then when they're done watching LVM, they pretend to be a kayaker. And my youngest kid always pretended to be Will Lyons. I don't know where he got that idea from, but he'd be like, "I'm Will Lyons and I'm paddling a Dagger Nomad." Right. You have to be a father, maybe. I don't know.
Did he say he was Will Lyons? Like, how did he pretend to be Will Lyons?
And that's just who he was in his mind.
Just have an accent? Or...
Would he pretend?
Like, I'm Will Lyons.
Would he pretend to like throw up on his kayak and stuff?
All right, you guys want my prediction?
Yeah, bring it on, Rush.
All right, I'm saying Billy Jones, number 1. Will Lyons, Jason Hale. Top 3. Throwing it down.
All right, I'm gonna take that to the bank.
Yeah,
you want to do that? You're getting if that happens, Rush, your hair is getting dyed for sure.
Oh man, Rush, I'm putting you in the top 10. I saw you out. I paddled with you the other day out there. You were no joke. You're going to be in the top 10. I'll tell you what. If you get some good practice runs, you may make a run for the podium. I'm not counting you out.
Well, thanks, bud. I appreciate that. I appreciate you changed your tune since calling me out to not be in the top 10, and even after I wrote the diss track and everything, I appreciate that.
Well, that was when I thought you weren't really going to show up, but then I saw you on the river, and I was like, 0. All right, real quick, boys. Rants and Raves. What you got, Weld?
Nothing.
Wait, Lewis, you got your mic on? Do you got a rant or a rave for us?
I do. Is this working again?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Oh, man, I'm livid about the verdict in that Malheur occupation trial. I know that I should probably have some idea of what actually happened there since I'm a lawyer and everything. I actually tried pretty hard not to pay any attention to it because I felt like these guys had already had their 15 minutes of fame and I wanted to see them anonymously disappear into prison where they belong.
To be clear, these are the guys that squatted on the bird sanctuary.
Yeah.
It was not squatting. It was an armed takeover.
Well, yeah. Right.
And they
there are guys out there in the bird watching tower with sniper rifles. They're tearing out fences. They're bulldozing roads. And somehow, I don't know if the prosecutors just absolutely beatered it, which seems to me like what happened. But these guys are walking away from this scotch-free. And I don't know if laws need to change so that prosecutors have tools to make sure that when people do things like this, they go to prison. But it seems like a total travesty when somebody just goes out and vandalizes public lands like that, keeps scientists from doing their job, and it's we're talking about President Obama potentially designating new national monuments in places where there are already threats against government workers. There's everything that went on in Nevada with the Bundys down there about people pointing guns at BLM employees, and just to see these guys just walk away from what they did out there is just unbelievably galling. So I hope that when they go to trial for the Nevada stuff that they get the book thrown at them and that this isn't the end of the story, but it's just total debacle.
Wow, that's a good one. Wow, Wild West is back. All right, I'm going to rave about 70 degrees and sunny Green River Narrows, and Duke Energy giving us more water in a time of drought. That'll be my rave. And
so next week we'll have to do a Green Race recap, and then after that we need like a month of Green River Narrows free podcasting.
Oh my God, Lewis, you're going on Weld's side now? This is ridiculous.
But what about I want to hear like Lewis and Weld's like top 5 pick. You know,
I'm going all white salmon DC. It's gonna be Isaac, Jeff Calhoun, Crusha.
Damn straight. What's that? What's that?
It's going to go, I'll tell you exactly how it's going to go. It's going to go Calhoun, then it's going to go Keller, and it's going to go DeGill, and that's how it's going to be.
There you go. You heard it here first. I'll go ahead and get the plaques ready. All right, boys.
That's
and
just
girls.
not going to happen like that.
Well, thanks so much for the time, and I'll see you guys out on the river tomorrow.